Good morning, everybody. If you're here, let us know you're here by signing into the chat. We are just getting started. Today we have two presenters for you, Martin Logan and Milan Senesi. They both are from Case Tempo, which is a software for case management, and they're going to talk about eSigning, how to incorporate it into your practice, what the legality and factors are that govern it, and then we'll use a demo to show you how that can be really easy for you to use. I know that everybody has been working remotely and a lot of online meetings, so some of these transitions that we've had are forcing us to rethink how we do business, and so that's why we chose this topic. I'm not going to talk too much longer about it. We're going to go ahead and start the presentation, but I did want to give a shout out to Amada because they have extended an offer to let us use their beautiful conference space today for this presentation. We had a little bit of a tech issue, and I reached out to Amada and asked would they mind letting us use their space so that we can offer this webinar today, and they agreed right away. They were quick on the ball. So one more shout out for Amada. Thank you guys. Now I'm going to turn it over to Martin. Martin, let's make you a little bigger here.
All right. Can you hear me?
I got you bigger. Let me see. There we go.
All right. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here today. Looking forward to going over e-signing with everybody. I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
You sound good on our side, but if anybody hears feedback, would you let us know in the chat if you hear some static or anything?
Hopefully it, okay. I took out one of the headphones. It seems to be working. Can you still hear me?
Good, you're good.
Okay, great. So happy to be here, everybody. Just briefly, my background has been in all kinds of software. I've worked at Amazon, I've worked at Expedia for many years, and done a lot of work in the mortgage industry on e-signing, and one of Milan's co-founders on Case Tempo. And so we're bringing a lot of that expertise now into that we've used to speed up the mortgage process and some of these other deeply technical fields, and bringing it to legal practice management and helping attorneys really make their practices more efficient. So excited to be here and present on e-signing to everyone. So why don't I jump into it here, and can everybody see the slide?
Yeah, I see it. And I've got an ability to kind of minimize our little faces in case it's covering any text, and I'll go ahead and do that. So don't worry about that, Martin. You might see your face jump around, but that's only if it's blocking the text.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let's get into it then. Next slide. Okay, so we're just briefly what we're going to go over. We'll cover what e-signing is. Milan will run you through that. We're going to cover both of the relevant acts, eSign and Ueta, and the 5 factors for legality there. And we're going to do a demo so you can see how e-signing works. After that, we'll take your questions, and finally we will wrap up. So Milan, do you want to give an explanation of just what e-signing is?
Hey guys, my name is Milan. I'm a founder of Case Tempo, and I want to tell you what e-signing is. Basically, e-signing is when you don't have. I'll tell you first what it's not. When you have to send a letter through a mail, use a pen or fax to sign a document or any of the older technology, that's not an e-signing. Basically, if you create a document on your computer, you drop a signature field there, and then you can electronically work with it. That you can email it to someone, and then they can just sign it on their device without having to do any downloading or printing or anything like that. That would be an e-sign, and it's used everywhere today, from government, real estate, legal. Basically, the benefits of e-signing, there are 4 main benefits. The first one is increased customer satisfaction. So basically, it's very convenient if you can just text someone, hey, click this link, and they click it, and then they sign and download their signed agreement. Then if they have to open an email, download the PDF, print it, then they have to sign it, they have to scan it, send it back. It's also more secure than traditional signing because the document after you sign it is hashed using advanced algorithms to ensure that it detects any kind of tampering of the document, which you can't really do with a paper form. The records are also more easily retained because they are stored online in a database, and with that also goes easier document retrieval because you can search faster than in your file cabinet.
Yeah, e-signing is definitely a disruptive technology. So much easier than working with paper and so much safer. So let's talk a little bit about the 5 factors for legality. So in order for eSign to fully hold up, you've got to meet these. But before we go into what those factors are, let's talk about the relevant acts. So the first one is UETA, and UETA was passed in 1999. It stands for the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, and it establishes state-by-state governance. And the purpose of it essentially is to ease the adoption of electronic signatures. 47 states have adopted UETA, and it is worth noting that Illinois is one of those states that has not adopted UETA. So it's Illinois, New York, and Washington. But when we talk about the next act, you will understand.
Yeah, and I think just real quick on the EUTA, if 47 states have adopted it, I suppose it's worth considering whether that's on deck for Illinois too. It might be something that's coming to a theater near you.
Yep. And eSign essentially is a federal act. It was passed in 2000. It stands for Electronic Signatures in Global and National Commerce. So it's a federal act, which makes it a lot easier. States don't have to adopt it. So this is valid in Illinois, and the purpose is to ease the adoption of electronic signatures. Both eSign and UETA grant the same legal status as wet ink for electronically signed documents, and those documents are perfectly valid to be presented in court because of these acts. There's a couple of myths. One of the myths is that UETA only covers sales and leasing, and that eSign only covers consumer transactions. You may have heard this. Completely not true. Both cover all transactions. The only real exceptions with regard to e-signing are powers of attorney, which I just had to sign during a refinance and had to go in and do the whole paper and ink thing, which was a real pain, especially during COVID. And declarations under oath. Those 2 are accepted from these acts, but everything else, is same power as a wet signature. So let's talk about what makes, when you're looking at e-signatures, it's important to know what makes them legal so that you can evaluate the software packages that you're getting, or evaluate if you're on the other side of an e-sign, maybe as a signee. So first is the intent to sign. Second is the consent to do business electronically. Third is that there's clear signature attribution, and we'll go in and talk about what each one of these means. Association of signature with record, and record retention. These are the 5 important factors. The first one, is, and the pictures are right over the top of the slide there. But the first one is the intent to sign, and so the intent to sign essentially means that you have to establish that the user intended to sign. Without this, it's not valid. So what we don't want is, somebody accidentally clicking or fat fingering the keyboard, and then all of a sudden they have a signature in there. That would not be valid, and this is what this factor attempts to skirt. So as you can see in the picture here, this can be done with an opt-out ahead of signing. So intent to sign, and they can say, yes, I intend to sign, or I want to continue, or no, I decline. I don't want to sign electronically. And it's very closely related to the next factor, which is the consent to do business electronically. So the signing partners must explicitly express their content to do business in an electronic format. This can be implied, and that can be legal, but why mess with that? Most vendors just make it obvious and ask specifically for consent. So you just say, yes, I intend to do business electronically, or no, I don't. And here you can see that, in a mobile form factor. So here's the document that was texted, texted to a SMS to a particular person. They click the link, it pops open the e-signing application on their phone, and they can tap continue or no, I don't want to. And now we've established the second factor.
Okay, and just real quick, before you flip to the next slide, let's go over this picture just a little bit. So what we're looking at is using Case Tempo as a demonstration where you have clients or customers, the person you want to sign. You have their information inside the software, and then you're able to send them the document to their phone. Is that what I'm looking at on the left side?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay, and then that link will take them to the document, right? It's not going to download into their phone. Is that right?
Right. It won't download into their phone. Yeah. And this is, Case Tempo does it this way, but this isn't particularly special. This is, fundamental e-signing functionality. The text thing is something Case Tempo does, but the clicking on a link, not downloading it into the phone, and then giving you the ability to consent or not consent. This is one of the fundamental factors. If you don't have this, you are not, you're not a bona fide e-signing package.
Okay. And the piece here is about getting their consent to do business electronically before they see the document. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify that. We did put up a poll whether someone has, whether you're using some sort of e-signing platform right now. I know that you guys cannot see the results, so I thought I would let you know that currently no one is using some sort of e-signing platform. So thanks for taking part. Go ahead, Martin, back to you.
Well, this, I assure you, will make life so much easier. All right, so let's move on to the third factor, which is clear signature attribution. And what this is it's establishing an audit trail. So it's just saying that we can track, that the e-signing software can track who the email where the signature link was sent to, what device ID, their low-level computer IP address or whatever device ID it was that they signed on. It's just establishing an audit trail complete with dates from the software and the person that sent the document to the person that has received it, their email address, computer ID, all of that, right? So that is very important that audit trail be established. And then finally, signature association with record. This is saying that the signature and the document that you sign must be connected together. So you can't store the signature separate from the document and treat it as a separate entity. They must be merged together. And you must also generate a graphical statement proving the execution. So they must always be together. And that is typically done with cryptographic algorithms. The whole document it's called hashing, gets hashed. And so any type of tampering, removal of the signature, anything like that would change the hash code. And so this is why this is safer than paper, because you could leave a document on your desk, somebody goes and messes with it. You can't know the difference that happened before the signature, after the signature, we don't know. With e-signing, we know. And then finally, records retention, pretty simple. This means that the signee has to be able to download the record for their own retention. If you don't give the signee the ability to, once they've signed, the ability to store their document, then it is not valid, right? So it's simply done with a download button. Every software package does it the same way. Just give them a download button after the signature.
And just to kind of summarize, so there's all these different e-signing platforms available, and certainly probably more companies are coming into market as our businesses are moving online. Yeah. And I just wanted to point out that those 5 things you just talked about are essentially what any attorney would want to make sure their platform provides. Because it's not the responsibility of the e-signing designer to make sure that it does those things. Is that right? It would be our responsibility to make sure if we're using a platform that it follows those 5 conditions.
Yes, you would want to. And I jumped ahead a couple slides to show you. So DocuSign is obviously a leading vendor. Adobe Sign is another one. Under the pictures is Sign Easy. That's another big vendor, Case Tempo, all of these do follow the five. You can trust with any of these that they follow the 5 factors, right? And they're compliant with UETA and they're compliant with eSign. But yeah, if you're picking a package, some other package, that would be the thing you want to look for.
And it might be important to note at this time that certain areas of law, I know healthcare law, have an additional standard for security and privacy, right? So
yeah.
As far as security and privacy or using a HIPAA standard, that's not one of the 5 conditions. So you would, as the attorney, want to double check that the e-signing platform that you're using is HIPAA compliant if that's required in your area of law or some other similar privacy practice.
Yeah, and because a lot of the e-signing vendors aren't necessarily HIPAA compliant. So if you have really stringent, if you have something medical records related or something like that, then oftentimes, people will go back to good old FedEx. But for the most part, it's rare. Most everything is covered within the purview of e-signing, but it's good to be aware of.
Sure.
And, just potential concerns and risk addition to that would be, the court throws out the case, even though all parties sign the agreement. But again, this can happen if the software being used does not comply with UETA and eSign. But if it does, you're 100% solid. The contract change after signing is something that people have this concern about. I think we covered it already. Very difficult, like pretty much impossible to do with e-signing. So e-signing not only gives you a better customer experience because they don't have to mail anything or go through the hassle of postage or going to find a note, they can just click it on the computer. So it's faster, it's easier for them, but it's also more secure and completely valid in a court of law. So Milan, I'll turn it over to you now. I think the next part is we'll show you a demo just so you can get a sense of how this kind of software works.
Okay, so Milan and I are sharing a screen, so I'm going to slide out and he's coming.
It's a move we practiced before. Let me share the screen here. I believe it's this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we're looking at right now is a dashboard of Case Tempo. And like Dana said, Case Tempo is a lead and case management system. It's kind of a all-in-one package, basically, that you should need for managing your practice.
I'm sorry, Milan. Are we able to get back to the dashboard? Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
So in this dashboard, basically, you have over here, you have a database of all your cases. Here you have tasks to do, and then here you have your pipeline that your cases go through. But in this demo, we're going to focus only on e-signing. So in this case, we're helping Peter Pan with his speeding ticket. So we're going to go into his case, and then this is the second important page in Case Tempo, and really these two are those where you're going to be spending most of your time if you're using Case Tempo. And here you can see on the left hand side, you can see the case card where you can see some basic information about the case. Here you can see the events. It's a timeline of the case, basically anything important that happened within the case. Here you can see the tasks, and this is an action menu where you can communicate with the client, etc. But here we see that we need to send offer letter to Peter Pan. So let's do that. So we're going to go over to documents, and we're going to find our agreement that we've prepared. I'm going to click on it. And so here you can, what you're looking at is this is basically a regular Word document that is being turned into a template. Basically, these are special placeholders that you can place in, and they're going to pull in the information from your case and fill it in automatically. So this is one of the advantages if you're using integrated solution versus if you're using something standalone like DocuSign, for instance, or integrating with DocuSign, is that you have your your regular Word files, and oftentimes when you prepare agreement, most of the text stays the same, or any kind of document, and there are only a few pieces that are changing depending on the case. And so that's something that you can reflect in the template just once, and then you're basically just clicking buttons, and the documents are being sent for signature.
Okay, and just mainly for my benefit, when we're talking about an integrated solution, we're talking about having the e-signature functionality within your case management software. That's
Right.
what integrated solution is referring to. Okay, as opposed to using that third-party app for the purpose of getting the eSign document and then needing to transfer that information from the application to wherever you use it or store it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because most of the times you would have separate packages, separate software solutions to do separate things. You would have maybe you have a case management, then you have a standalone e-signing, then you might have something standalone for intaking your leads, and basically and then then you open your Gmail or Outlook to write emails, and so you end up with a lot of open windows, and it can get confusing. The information can get lost, and then the information doesn't necessarily collaborate because they might be. You have to multiply the data entry basically to achieve the same thing if you're not using integrated solutions. So then here we're gonna scroll down, and then here you can see that this is the placeholder for signature, and the print name is Peter Pan. So we're gonna share the document for signing, and we have two options. We can send it through email or send it through SMS, through text. So let me show you what that looks like through email. Here what you can see is that we're not actually sending the document, but we're sending this special link that is a link to e-signing portal. It's a web page that your clients can go to. So let's see what that looks like. Here we are sending the email through Gmail. So we support both Gmail and Outlook. So it's basically as if you wrote this text yourself and send it through Gmail. So you're going to see it in your sent folder on your phone,
and you're going to see it in your sent folder through Gmail, and in this case you would also have a record of it inside of your case management software.
Exactly. So we're sending email, and then here on the left hand side in the events part, you can see that there have been two records. One is that we have sent an email, and that's the email about signing request. And then there's another event that says pending signing, and so that's the signing event that we created. We're going to go ahead and check the task that we have sent the offer letter, and as you can see, that another event has been added to the event timeline. And then when the client clicks on the link, this is what they're going to see. They're going to see the consent and the intent to do business with you, which they can either decline or accept. So we're going to accept it here. And then here, you can click to sign and sign.
Okay, so the demo is showing that they would be typing in their name, but then they would either have to use a mouse or a touch screen to sign the document.
Yes, in this particular example, yes, but there are different types of signatures that you can opt in for, and that's basically when you're creating the document template, you insert the specific placeholder that you're looking for.
Okay, so the placeholder type can be changed, where someone can use a typed keyboard name as their signature. So you would decide how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then here, I don't know if you can see, there's a download button. There was a download button at the end that allowed you to download the signed agreement. Right here, so you can download it on your computer.
Thanks, Milan. Okay, so we do have some questions over here to the right, and I just wanted to take a look at those. Nancy asks, how much does this application cost? And I'm going to infer that she's talking about the Case Tempo software. So Martin or Milan, did either of you one of you want to take that question?
I can take it. So the question was, should I just follow these questions here in the list? Okay, so the first question was, which case management software works with this application? So what we're demonstrating is basically a single integrated solution. It is e-signing within Case Tempo. Then how much does it cost? It's $49 a month for user, and that includes everything: e-signing, unlimited, texting, emailing, faxing. Okay, so the 40. Let's see if we can do maybe both of us
On the screen, because I have some other questions.
Mm-hmm.
To flesh out what was already asked. So as far as the cost for this particular application, and we were saying 49, or you were saying $49 per user, is that a standard cost for any user, or do you have different costs for different types of users?
No, it's standard. It's standard across the board. We try to be pretty low cost and just keep it as simple as possible.
Okay, and do you have an annual pay option that is discounted?
Yeah, we have a discounted annual option, which essentially saves you about a month.
Okay. And then Jennifer asked about which case management software works with this type of application.
And it's totally integrated. So this does case management primarily, and then within it, there's an e-signing package, and you get as many e-signs as you would like.
Okay, and Jennifer, let us know if that answered your question. I'm just not sure which application you were exactly referring to. Okay, and in the meantime, Martin, did you have anything to add for the e-signing information? I didn't know if we were done with your.
No, I think the main things, we covered. There's
about the remote notary.
Yeah, well, if anybody had questions on remote notary, we have, I brought the info on that. But let me see.
While you're getting that going, I'll just get back to Jennifer.
Yeah, if anyone has questions on remote notary, a number of states have temporarily approved remote notary. And there's some, if you can actually just read the screen, I'll leave it up there. Those are essentially the key details that you would need to know about remote notary right now. And if anybody had any if you want to get in touch with us, you can go to our website. There's contact information there. The handouts that were sent out also have the contact information on them. So if you have further questions, or if you want to know about Case Tempo, or if you want to know about other e-signing software, whatever your question might be, we're happy to answer it.
Okay, so I got that answer out to Jennifer, and I wanted to come back to touch on this remote online notarization. But I'm going to move our pictures so that we can see the whole slide. There we go. Okay, so the remote online notarization that is temporarily effective in Illinois is in effect while we have these emergency orders issued by the governor. And at first, I was confused by looking at the wording on the order allowing it. I was confused as to how it actually needed to be done. So I just wanted to touch on these bullet points and share my own experience in making it valid. So the Remote Notarial Act must be done by two-way real-time audio-video communication. So what I understood that to mean is that you have to both be able to see and hear each other in live format. The signer and actually the person, the notary, have to both be physically in Illinois. So in my experience, when I started the video, I had an introduction that included identifying myself. I identified my commission expiration date. I also identified my location. And then I asked the signer to do the same, identify himself and his location. And then I stated, in the case where I personally knew him to be the person that he said he was, I made that statement on video as well. Now, if I didn't know the person, I would probably ask him to bring out his ID and show it to the camera. The next bullet point about the resolution is touching upon the idea that you have to have clarity. So I did have the person take the document and hold it up to the camera for a short period of time and slowly move the document so that you could see from top to bottom the entire thing. And we did that for each page. And then I asked the affiant to confirm for me how many pages were in his possession. The next bullet point talks about keeping the recording. So that would be the responsibility of the notary. And you might want to check in with the platform that you're using to make that recording to know that you have access to that for 3 years, or if you can download it and save it somewhere. The next bullet point talks about the signer needing to initial each page to make sure the document is complete. And then you have a 24-hour requirement that the signer must fax or send by electronic means the signed document to the notary. So when I did mine, I asked the signer on camera, will you be able to do that, to get his confirmation? So if anyone has any questions about remote notaries, share them in the chat, or if you've had a experience with remote notarization that is different than what I just described, share that as well. I personally did not use any remote notary platform. They are available out there, but I just did it using audio video communication with my own computer, and I recorded the process through that application. I didn't use notarize.com or anything like that.
Yeah, the big software packages out there right now are Doc Verify, Notarize. I'd say those are probably the two. Safe Doc is another one that's pretty big.
One question that came through was, do you think the last bullet also means that the signer cannot physically bring the document to the notary? That is to say, it must be faxed or emailed? My opinion is that it does not mean that the signer cannot physically bring the document, because I understand this temporary authorization for remote notarization to not limit existing rules about notaries, rather to expand the use. And I believe I remember seeing language inside of the act, or the order rather, that specifically says these new rules do not limit or restrict the existing rules for notarization. So you can still do an in-person notarization if you can conform to social distancing and, possibly through a window or a glass. I've heard some people doing that. But to answer your question, no, I don't think the last bullet means that it is required. Another question came through. Are there any types of documents that cannot be notarized remotely? To my knowledge, I do not know of documents that cannot be notarized remotely under the current authorization. Do either Martin or Milan?
I think it's the same exceptions. I think power of attorney is one of those that I don't know if you can do remotely.
I think you can now, because
Okay. Oh.
we had a lot of inquiries about estate planning documents being signed electronically, witnessed electronically, and then notarized electronically. So the power of attorney for property is one of those that needs notarization. And my understanding is that you are able to execute a power of attorney electronically. But whether that, I don't believe you can do that normally. I think you can do that now during the temporary authorization, just to clarify.
Yeah, you definitely can't do it normally.
Kristen asked about recorded documents, like, for example, a deed. Again, I would include recorded documents as permissible for remote notarization.
And certainly for e-signing. Certainly for e-signing. So
Yeah, because I believe the language of the order, which I don't think is real clear, but I believe the language of the order permitting the temporary remote notarization is expansive, that it does include recorded documents. Jennifer asks, are you advising clients to re-execute documents in person after the pandemic is over? And when is it safe to do so? I am not advising clients to re-execute documents personally, because you know, I feel that I have every reason to believe the documents were executed properly and legally, so they are valid at that time. I don't think it's necessary, but if anyone else feels differently, share that with us. Let us know if you have some concerns about whether there will be problems down the road. Now, I feel like I've also, in my own practice, taken additional precautions where, going off of the remote notarization list that's on your screen, not only did I do what they asked me to do there, but I also wanted to record some confirmations from the signer on the recording, just in case down the road something were to come up. It was a question that I had already asked. They responded and it was confirmed on video. So to answer your question, it's in the back of my mind that in case something comes up later in terms of an objection, I wanted to address any possible loose end, but I wouldn't take it so far as to say that there's going to be a basis to invalidate the documents that were executed. And for that reason, I don't see there as being a need to re-execute documents. So I hope that answers your question. And thanks for these questions, by the way. These are great. So keep them coming. Martin or Milan, have you had any requests through your case management software related to this e-signature function feature? Have you had anybody say, we need better privacy, or we need HIPAA standards? Or can you share some of your thoughts about what you'd like to do in that regard with your software?
Yeah, let me answer that. Thank you for the question. Actually, just last week, one of our clients reached out and asked if we are HIPAA compliant. So that is, they're running personal injury, and they're trying to sign certain documents that need to be under the HIPAA statement. So that's something that we're looking into to see if we're actually HIPAA compliant, going over the standard. Basically, the way our software works is that it's entirely community driven. We listen to what our clients need, and then we build it in Case Tempo. So basically, the entire Case Tempo is built by other law firms through our software expertise.
And it's one of those things too where, for the client that Milan's speaking of, is once you start e-signing, if you're not using it now, once you start doing it and you sort of get away from all of the mailing and the envelopes and the watching the post for things to come in and the losing things in the basket and so on, once you get away from it and you start using e-sign, the idea of having to go back and then, oh geez, this one is this is under the HIPAA compliance conditions, so now we've got to go back to the post and pen and ink. It really kind of takes the wind out of your sails a little bit. It's just a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I can see that, and that made me think of another question about can you think of, or have you experienced any problems with using e-signing from your standpoint? Have you been made aware of any problems with e-signing?
The only problem, I think, and I wouldn't call it a problem, but just sort of a normal thing, is when people first use it, some people just pick it up right away, and then other people might have a question. There's just the initial kind of getting used to it, which takes you about an hour or so. But other than that, no specific issues. Maybe one of the issues is just complex documents where they wish to do a number of initials and then a signature, and maybe have multiple signatures on it and kind of have that be it in a particular order. Some people have some really specific requirements for how they want things signed and in what order, and that can sometimes be difficult. I think we handle it reasonably well, but depending on the complexity, that can cause a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
We're also usually if people have more complicated requests, what they want to do, we typically sit down with them and figure out a way to do it. Either we create a feature to enable it, or we explain to them, step by step through a video chat how we can do that.
Yeah, that's actually fantastic that you have that kind of customer service. But Martin, you did say something that made me think of the situation where you have multiple signers for one document, and through the integrated eSign platform, can you explain how you set up that logistic? So from the standpoint of, let's say, the attorney who needs to have this document e-signed by multiple parties, how does the attorney set that up to happen is the first question. And then maybe broaden your answer to whether if integrated e-sign applications all do it that way or not. So I know that you can tell us specifically how Case Tempo does it, but I'm also wondering if just more generally, if that's a standard practice or if that's something more custom to your software.
So let me take this question.
Yeah, sure.
So within Case Tempo, when you're creating a case, you can assign multiple different contacts to your case. So you have a main contact, and then you can have multiple different ones. And the contact could be it could be a wife, it could be a spouse, but it could also be a police officer that worked the case, or it could be an institution even. And then when you're creating the signatures, maybe it's going to be easiest if I just show it on the screen.
I think in a nutshell, just for sake of time, it's just a matter of adding a signature line. So it's much the same as you would do with even a regular document, right? If you wanted one person to sign it, you're going to have one signature line. If you're going to e-sign that, you add a tag to that line, which will electronically grab a hold of that signature line. And with Case Tempo and DocuSign for sure, and Adobe Sign, you would add a second tag that will allow you to have a second signature. So it's a pretty straightforward process.
So yeah, go ahead.
So if anybody would like to see it actually in action, I can I can show you a quick demo, but if not, we can.
No, I would like to see it because I think I have a question about the way it works.
Okay. So for case tempo, we have made a word add-in that you can simply activate.
Okay, and so, I mean, I'm going to go from my standpoint that a very basic viewpoint. When you say add-in, this is a little tool that we can download into our Microsoft Word application.
You basically install it through the store in here.
Okay, so I see, get add-ins, and then it integrates, it's a little communication channel, basically, with Case Tempo.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that is not a separate charge. That's
No,
just that's an ability to do that, to connect Case Tempo to Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
Microsoft Office. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there are multiple different add-ins that you can install into your Word or Excel or any other package that you're working with. That might be new for some of you. So and when you're creating document, like you could start writing text. Either you pull in your existing Word or you create a new one, and you have these placeholders that you define when you were creating forms, intake forms for your cases, and then you can just simply insert them like this into the document. And when you need a signature, there's a special button here for it. So let's say here I want to insert a signature with date and time. So I can click the button, and there's going to be a field inserted. It's basically a text box where the signature is going to be placed. And every time you need to insert a signature, you just click the box here basically, and signature is going to be inserted.
And so this is where we had talked about earlier. You can change the type of signature that you are looking for. If you want someone to use their mouse or touch screen, this is one type. Or if you want to use a type where they can type in their name. Okay, that's how you do it. And then you would add in a second signature box if you had another signer that you needed. Mm-hmm. But then,
And you'd ask, oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
you'd asked about whether or not other signature e-signing packages do it the same way. Yes. So DocuSign, Adobe Sign, they do it the exact same way. I think the thing you don't get with them is, this high client first name. You take a current doc that you have, in Word. You just open it up in Word, install the plugin, and now you can substitute, all of those things you would normally type out, the client first name, the case number, etc., with these placeholders, and now Case Tempo will automatically generate the document for you specific to that case. So it just saves you a ton of time. Yeah. And then you put the signatures in there, and you're done. It's a one-click form, for repeatable form.
That's more
the other thing that it does is you don't have to pay multiple subscriptions. So some of these standalone packages can be pretty expensive, or they limit you how many templates you can use, and then you have to make sure that these templates are in sync in what you're actually using. So that's another complication that if you're using multiple packages.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because sometimes these subscription services are not too bad individually, but when you start to add up all the different pieces that you need for one transaction, then you're starting to look for ways that you can combine costs and just make it simpler. It can get out of control pretty quickly. But I was just curious, back on this traveling document that we're getting multiple signatures on. So let's say signer 1 signs your document, and we can go back to the dashboard. Signer 1 signs the document. Now you're going to get a copy of his signed document, and then do you have to send that out to the next signer automatically, or is the next signer kind of next in queue, where when you have these integrated type solutions for e-signing, do you kind of set up like, signer 1 signs, then the document automatically goes to the next person? So then it circles back around.
So right now, the way it works is when you would send an email or the text, you would just specify that you want to send it to multiple people, to multiple contacts that are part of your case. They get the same link. And then normally when you're creating the signature, it's going to have under there the name of the signee. And so it's responsibility of the person to go to the place where they need to sign and sign there.
Okay. When you send out the same document to multiple people, so it goes in different directions, and then they log in at different times, let's say. So will person 2 see person 1's signature if person 1 already signed it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting to me. So once everybody's going to be electronically signing the same document.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see their electronic signatures, as opposed to what I'm thinking about is kind of in a traditional real estate transaction. I always feel like, I'm emailing the contract and then I get a faxed copy, an emailed copy back with a signature. And then I'm forwarding that on to the second person to accept it. And they are signing and sending it back. It's like coming back, and then I got to send it out, and then it boomerangs back. And then if I have to have a third party, I got to send it that way. So I just wanted to hear about using the integrated, how that gets passed around multiple signers. So it sounds like they're all doing it on one document, which is really great.
Essentially, yeah, it's the same document. So there's no need to, because it's now virtual, it doesn't need to be sent to person. And then once all the signatures are completed, we hash each step, put it into that secure block. And then once all the signatures are completed, you have an audit trail of everybody that signed it, what the hash was then, when they signed it, on what device. And then when it's all done, it all gets hashed, and you've got, okay, here's the final one. And then it's sort of sealed. Yeah,
so that's another advantage of that kind of integrated application. And I'm not sure if this is kind of within the scope of e-signing, but from the standpoint of estate planning practice, or even other practices where you do need a witness to the e-signer, are there integrated solutions that offer that kind of feature where you can get a witness to see the e-sign?
No, so that would probably come along with more of, I'm guessing the e-notary packages will probably have the ability to have witnessing and so on. But for witnessing within eSign, we don't have that, and it's, you'd probably need some video in order to make sure that they were,
whatever you're using for your video conferences.
Yeah.
If you can get 3 people or more, however many you need, in the online meeting,
maybe.
I'm wondering then if you can send out the same.
You could potentially record the meeting, show the e-sign, sign it live, because it's going to have the same timestamp.
Yeah. And physically, it's possible, right? Because you'd all see the same document, you'd all sign it at the same time, but whether it's legally valid, I don't know.
And I was certainly asking more from a technical standpoint, to share your thoughts about how to maybe accomplish that. But I agree, I would have to look into it more to see about whether it would be binding. But that's certainly a solution that we might need, because we don't know how long these sorts of quarantine.
You would definitely need video. You'd need to show the ID clearly, because what's happening is it's being sent to one email address. Both people are in the room. You might be signing off the same doc, which then would have been sent to Milan. So, you wouldn't have the record of, this being sent to the witness's email box. Maybe that's something you could do too, is in the screen share switch over. But certainly you would have to have video, the ID present, some of that, I would guess, and you need to make sure that they're at the same time in the same room, so there would certainly have to be some kind of video evidence of that. Or maybe they wouldn't have to be in the same room. There's definitely some complexity, but
right.
Interesting to look into.
We have actually not heard a request for such a feature yet. And so we haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I didn't even really think about it until we started having this conversation, and just in light of the current restrictions and not knowing how long they're going to play out, how it's going to impact the practice of law going forward. Right now, we're all transitioning into our new kind of corrals, you know, our restrictions and how we're allowed to practice. But it begs the question, as we get more accustomed to using these more efficient practices, you might have attorneys who are choosing to do more of this kind of online signing, online transactions, just because of the efficiency. So I think the longer that we are under restrictions, the more likely it is that you're going to have the practice of law kind of turn towards that tide. And so that's where my thoughts were coming from. And I thought I would key into what you guys thought on the technical side of that.
I mean, technically totally doable. Totally doable.
It'll be totally possible. Like when you saw that page, we can just insert a video, basically, like you would have in Zoom. It'll be part of that signing.
Yeah.
And it all could be recorded as one package. It's doable. Like if people want it, you know.
Right. I'm going to ask you two to think of, because we have just a few minutes left. So if you had any questions that you wanted to put out there to the viewers, and in a minute I'll come back to you. But I also wanted to take a minute to thank everybody for joining us. I hope this has been very helpful to you. We have these guys for a few more minutes. They have a lot of knowledge about tech and case management software in general. If you have any questions for them, please share that in the chat. And what else can I tell you? Next week, we will be having another webinar on this, I think next week is on the subject of marketing online, and that's with Drew from Deviant Marketing. So be on the lookout for that. And so now back to you guys. Did you have any questions for us that I can maybe answer or pose to the viewers too?
I have one. So I know in the poll, people had mentioned that they're not using eSign. Hopefully this webinar has been useful, and you know, it gives you a better understanding and makes eSign more approachable. I was just wondering what might be holding what held you back from using eSigning prior?
Okay, great question. And I will start with my answer. So the main thing that held me back was that I just didn't feel like I had enough time to invest in understanding the process. And because I wanted to make sure that what platform I was using and the method that it uses, wanted to make sure that that was valid for me. For me, the time that I needed to learn that was more than I had to just set aside in order to incorporate it into my practice. So I guess another way of saying that is I have a system that I'm familiar with, and I can just keep rolling with it, or I can try to figure out a new system. And it didn't seem easy to understand how to do the new system or incorporate it into my practice.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think my question would be, it's more broad. If people have any kind of, basically, if for you using technology is not pleasant, something is wrong. So like if you are using, I don't know, if you're using Excel or maybe other solutions like my case or Clio, and you know, or even us, if somebody like that is in the audience and you are not happy with something, what would that be? Like, if you think of it as that you're a magician and you can just wave the magic wand and like make your wish come true, what would that be?
With tech in general, with using tech, using legal tech in general, my answer, and I think it's also common in terms of people that I've talked to have had the same experience, the learning curve on different types of tech can be intimidating. And because I don't want to waste too much time, I'm always looking for a recommendation from someone to say, I use this, it's not that hard, and it works good. Because then I will say, okay, I only have so much time to spend. I don't want to make the wrong decision in which platform or application to incorporate. So I'm always looking for someone to give me a nudge in a direction so that I save that time. Mm-hmm. So I think if there was some magic wand that I could wave, it would be a way to make the slope of the learning curve not so steep.
Right. That's kind of like that was one of the first things while we started Case Tempo.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say there's another question on that from Geneva.
Let me just take it quickly. A lot of people asked us, why do you start another practice management package? And if you look at a lot of them, they're very complicated. They have all these tabs, all these buttons. And when I first tried to log in one of those, I didn't know what to do. Like it just made no sense. And so we wanted to make something very simple, something where you have just two screens, where you have your database and then you have your case and you work with it, and it just makes sense. It's like very simple. I wanted to make it so that within 15 minutes, my mom could use it. So hopefully we achieve that goal.
What does your mom say?
My mom doesn't know that I'm saying that, but that is ultimately the goal.
Did it pass the mom test?
I think it did. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. But again, she's my mom. She'll say anything, to please me. So.
Geneva asks, I'm designing a mobile legal clinic. My clients aren't tech savvy. What tools do you have to assist with explaining e-signing? Milan or Martin?
Martin, you're muted.
Yeah, I didn't want my typing to come through. Geneva, you can email Milan or myself at casetempo.com, and we'd be happy to get you more explanation or simply walk you through it. We've found with most clients it's a pretty quick walk through. For e-signing is pretty straightforward once you get over that very initial hump, right, of just sort of getting it in front of you and trying it once. So we'd be happy to just walk you through sending an e-sign out on your own, and then maybe even sending it to yourself so you can receive it and then be on the other side and go ahead and sign it. And I suspect that after that, you'd fully understand it.
Basically, anytime you do any change, whether it's using a new tool or changing the tool that you're using, there's going to be some pain associated with it, with setup. But what we found that with Case Tempo, that pain lasts roughly about 30 minutes to an hour to explain you everything that you can do. And then we are trying to handhold you as much as possible if there are any questions, help you out, recording videos to guide you exactly through your question, or just call you.
Yeah. So I think tools that could be used would be either, like you're saying, direct communication where you're walking someone through, or possibly a video tutorial that goes step by step. Mm-hmm. To help people who aren't as tech savvy. I think the demo that you showed us, even though I've never seen the inside of Case Tempo before, was very helpful to, and with your guided instruction, just to see this is what we're looking at and this is what we can do and how we do it. So my thoughts are the video tutorial and then your direct customer service. Yeah.
We can probably even record, Geneva, if we walk through it with you, you could probably just record that and then use that as a sample for the clients that'll have your voice on it.
Okay, well, we're a few minutes over. Sorry to keep you, but I want to thank Milan and Martin for joining us today and sharing all of that expertise with us. Milan and Martin's emails are in the chat, and you're welcome to contact them if you have further questions about anything they've talked about, or I think it extends even to legal tech questions.
Or any tech questions that you have.
They're willing to help out.
Except please fix my computer. I won't do that.
Thanks for joining us. I hope you got a lot out of it, and have a great rest of the week. Goodbye,
Thanks, everybody.